Hello everyone. Hello.
Sound resumed.
Today we're continuing with the quarterfinals and the semifinals of Kings of the Sea 5. Now, every single game today is probably going to be pretty damn hype. I'm looking at our quarterfinals here today, and we have, in fact, I can show you guys the quarters we have coming up for us. This should be quite the battle indeed. We have Kings of the Sea
Oh,
taking on.
hello.
Oh, hello, Isolate. I was just starting to show off the quarterfinals we got going today. Well, starting off, Kings of the Sea versus Wargaming Pay to Win. That is the game we will be casting right now. At the same time as this game starts, OM will be taking on Alliance, ALN, the Polish alliance. As far as I know, they got a bunch of reinforcements from the old AAO, so we don't really know how
Oh.
strong they are. But apparently the huge AAO exodus ended in a lot of members moving to Alliance, and that could be the reason for the resurgence of this team suddenly getting to this far in the playoffs, because they did kind of fall off, and it seems like they are back with the reinforcements. So
Alright.
that's going to be an interesting quarter as well. And then we of course got Skunk versus Omni. Skunk, who impressed us so much yesterday,
Yep.
taking down TTT 2-0, taking down MDiv 2-0, but this is of course the real test. We will be casting Skunk versus Omni as well, and that game should be quite the hype match. We got the up and coming Dark Horse against probably one of the most established clans in the entire EU scene. So that's gonna be a pretty damn interesting game to see. And
Oh, yes.
finally, TWA versus UFR. Both teams known for running a bit of their unique strategies, a bit of their unique play styles. Both of them very strong teams though as well. At this point there are really no weak teams left. Every single team in the quarters is going to be a threat. So this game should be very interesting as well, and we'll see if maybe we'll get a chance to peek in on some of these games depending on how fast our own game ends. But right now, we'll be moving on to Kings versus Wargaming Pay to Win. Do we know if the room is up?
It is up. Proxanus is the person to join.
Okay, let's
And I'm pretty sure this is tournament mode, so T1.
T1, yes.
Yeah, it should only be
Fantastic.
Atlantic and Islands of Ice.
And those are two of the maps we're actually playing, so...
Oh, shit. Should not ready up in the thing. We should be distributed to a team first, I think.
No, I don't think it matters.
Right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've read it up in here in the past. Right, we can switch to... So, I'm pretty sure that... Let's see, the map pool for the quarterfinals... Sea of Fortune, Islands of Ice, and Atlantic. So we'll be needing to use carriers for Islands of Ice and Atlantic if it does go to 3 maps.
Okay.
Hope Flamu's curse doesn't fail. I don't know if you checked my Twitter, but I actually posted a picture yesterday.
I saw it, man.
Every single team I casted for yesterday lost. Every single team, every map I casted on, every time. It didn't matter what team I was on, every time I casted for them, my team lost. So, let's see if that keeps
If it holds
happening.
true.
Yeah, exactly. Who's your favorites for this match?
Ooh, I don't know, man. Wargaming Pay to Win has been in the game for a long time, and they're kind of a mixed bag. They're always contending, but never really reaching.
Yeah.
Kings are quite a recent addition. I think they were. They did well in the clan battles. I know that much. I don't know. I think I would have to go with Kings, man. I like the up and comers.
Really? Personally, I think Wargaming Pay to Win will be the favorites for this game. I think simply
Oh,
because
yeah, me
they have
too.
so much
For sure.
experience and established. But Kings are bringing something fresh. They're a fairly new team, and they are obviously very hungry for it. And as you mentioned, Wargaming Pay to Win, they always put up a fight, but they seem to struggle to really make it to the very end of tournaments. They put up a very good result early on in the groups and playoffs and so forth, but then when they face up against the really top teams, that's when they tend to start faltering. But I mean, all teams learn, all teams improve, and it's very possible that they might have fixed whatever issues they tend to have later in tournaments, and this time we'll see Wargaming Pay to Win advance all the way. Because I mean, I would say any of the quarterfinalists are potential finalists.
Yeah, for sure.
There are really no weak teams left in this tournament anymore. Like any teams that make mistakes, those have already been eliminated. The ones that make a lot of mistakes get eliminated in groups. And then the further on you get in the tournament, the less forgiving that the enemy teams are, and any sort of mistake gets heavily punished. Interesting. Triple Hindenburg on both sides, but Kings opting for the Des Moines, whereas Wargaming Pay to Win opting for the Minotaur. The question is this a radar Minotaur, or is this a smoke Minotaur? Radar Minotaur would make a lot more sense.
They're running the double gearings compared to one gearing. So.
Exactly. So it would make no sense for them to be running smoke Minotaur, unless they're going for the triple cap approach, which means of course they're sending one ship to every cap, and the idea is to try to contest every cap at once. But that's pretty risky. That's with carriers and radars. I mean, they are up against the Des Moines and the Moskva, in fact. Oh, yeah. Interesting. Kings went for the 1DD approach and brought an additional radar instead. So I would say King's setup is actually quite strong against what Wargaming Pay to Win has.
Yeah.
Double radar and a lot of firepower.
Yeah, and especially with like a Minotaur is it's strong, but a Minotaur is also made out of paper.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Minotaur is strong as long as it doesn't get shot at, and in general, the smoke play that they're obviously hoping to go for with the double gearing is also strong, but they have a pretty good counter, Moskva and Des Moines. And this is a map that favors radar cruisers quite heavily because there's so much terrain, so many good islands to park behind, and you can influence all the caps and so forth. What is important though is that teams are used to playing the Clan War version of this map, and there's heavy emphasis on AB that are combined together on the Clan War version. But this is the normal domination version, whereas A is moved to the side. And that kind of opens up the map a lot more. It's less about the focus on that B cap, and it's more about map control.
Yeah. Do you think that the Moscow is a good pick, or do you think that a second Des Moines would have been better for this map in particular, with how many islands you can abuse with the Des Moines and shoot over compared to the Moscow?
There's a north position that I think this Moskva is actually going for, that I love playing with the Moskva. And that's parked on the if this Moskva turns hard left and goes nose in right here, then he's going to go to the position that's I consider one of the best in the map for Moskva. I'm going to wait to see if he actually turns there. It looks like, yeah, he's turning to the exact position that I predicted. So he's basically parking his Moskva behind the island on D5, and this is an incredibly strong position because the island on your right blocks off all incoming fire from A, and in general you tend to be quite undetected, but your radar can cover all of B, and I assume pretty much almost all of A as well, and you can also provide fire support south of C, which he's doing right now over the island. So this Moskva position is one I used to play in Clan Wars, so I'm not really surprised to see him go there. It's a very strong position, and this position alone is a good reason to bring Moskva.
Right, let's see if he can cover the entirety of A. General Olsen in the gearing from Wargaming Pay to Win is capping, and he's capping on almost the complete opposite side of A from that Moscow. And I'm assuming that's because the Moscow was spotted, so yeah, that's where he needs to go.
I think his radar could potentially reach him, but I don't think he wants to waste the radar because they're not in a good position to punish the DD if he does use the radar. So I think it looks like Kings is going to focus heavily on BC. They are only putting a Hindenburg and a Montana to slow down and harass A, but the majority of their forces are being sent towards C. So I assume the idea is get C control, maybe push south through the map, and then take B control with the help of the map control you have later on.
Get that crossfire, because the Montana from Kings north of A, if they can push through C, then they're going to be able to have that crossfire that we talked so much about yesterday.
And the Montana from Wargaming Pay to Win actually pushed it maybe a bit too deep, and he's getting quite some heavy focus on him right now.
Yep.
He's got a Des Moines, a Hinden, two Hindens, and a Montana, all focusing him. Now, obviously, any competitive battleship player will be running fire prevention, so it's unlikely he will even be set on fire twice, and he does get away without eating too much damage. Minotaur gets spotted. I assume this is a radar.
Yeah.
No, he's outside of his smoke. He's outside of his smoke, and he was plane spotted, I think.
Oh, yeah. That smoke. The gearing smoked up the Minotaur. But that Minotaur position, like that shuts down all the planes.
Indeed.
In that area, like, well, it doesn't shut it down, but the long range AA on the Minotaur with the dual purpose main battery guns.
It does kind of. It creates a massive AA bubble with
you
AF.
you can walk your planes in there, but then you're just gonna bleed planes.
Yeah, and you got to remember that Minotaur with AFT gets what 8.6 km is it on the long range anti-air. So that AA bubble that he creates covers all of C and B, and more importantly, since we do assume this is a radar Minotaur, that position locks down C as well. Every time the DD decides to push into C, the Minotaur can radar, and he'll be under potential fire. So the only way they can actually safely take C is by putting enough pressure on the flank here, so that they can force the Minotaur out of position. Because a radar Minotaur, just like a Des Moines, is incredibly vulnerable to being flanked. And I think Kings realize this.
Yeah. A pretty slow opening here. It seems like the ball is in King's hand right now with their push around C. Meanwhile, though, Wargaming Pay to Win has the A cap, so they're gaining a slight point lead.
Yeah, I mean, it's no longer that slight even. It's
No.
approaching 80 points. We are talking about the kill worth of points soon. And it starts to become a problem. And the Kings really need to get into gear and take control here. But Wargaming Pay to Win has a really good crossfire to defend here. The Minotaur... Oh, AP going out on the Minotaur. Montana AP.
Oh, it's...
He's
barely.
just behind the island. He's just behind the island in such a position that he cannot really be hit. This position is so very strong for a Minotaur. The only way they can actually reach this Minotaur is by pushing deep enough around the island. And the problem is, Wargaming Pay to Win knows this. So they have created this excellent horseshoe shape crossfire on anyone who tries to push in. The Hindenburg was the first guy in. He's lost all his health. He's forced to retreat. And now the next guys are trying to push in.
And we talked about this yesterday, how competitive players and in competitive matches, you're going to find places that you would never consider normally playing random battles. This is one of those positions where you wouldn't use this normally unless you derp into the island, right?
Yeah, the good thing here...
That's a calculated move to sit there in that exact position.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I think a position like this wouldn't be as strong in randoms is it relies on your team holding down the flank. And in random battles, of course, you cannot rely on random players understanding this. There are positions that work in Clan Wars that in no way work in random battles at all. Yeah. Interestingly, Gearing was about to get the C-cap, but I assume he got radared, so he was forced to go into cover again. So that Minotaur, even though he might not be dealing a lot of damage, his radar is right now shutting out Kings from any points at all, and we are talking about a 140-point lead for
Wargaming. This is a battleship. This is a battleship kill worth of points right now.
Yeah, it's becoming a really big problem, and the problem is the more points they get, the more the pressure builds on Kings to not just get one cap, but eventually get a second cap as well to try to offset this lead. And more importantly is the HP pools. If you take a look at the HP pools, Kings is bleeding health trying to get control of C there. Because whereas Wargaming Pay to Win, well, they're not really taking much damage at all because they can just angle against this blob of ships and farm them. Where on the other hand, Kings, every time they push in, they are under a crossfire. It's a nasty situation, and this is why we often emphasize how important getting that early capture control is, because it puts the ball in your opponent's hands, and the guy who defends always has a significant advantage in this game. So that's why early aggression can lead to being able to defend as well, and then in turn you get that advantage.
Yeah, and that's why we talked yesterday about the weakness of running one destroyer.
Indeed. And actually, Kings have responded to this problem. They're obviously having issues getting control of C, getting control of this part of the map. So they have pulled the Montana back from the A flank. and they've only left the Hindenburg and the Moskva to hold down the fort, and they are going to pull the Montana in, I think, between B and C to provide additional firepower and maybe help them finally flip the cap. But Kings have also, I mean, Wargaming Pay to Win has also pulled back their battleship, and with all this firepower and the Hindenburg getting so low, Kings are struggling. Kings are choking. And I don't mean choking as in playing badly, but
They're
I
being
mean
choked.
Wargaming Pay to Win is slowly but steadily choking them out.
Yeah.
Kings are trying to trade health to get cap control, but Wargaming Pay to Win isn't allowing them to get the cap control, so all they're really doing is trading health.
I mean, at this point, Kings is trading health in order to shut down the crossfire before they can even start thinking about capping, right?
And
That's what they're doing on the east, at
yeah,
least.
they're trading health for map position, but the problem is map position only becomes valuable if you can later build that into cap controls.
Yeah.
And right now, their map control isn't translating into cap controls, which means they're not actually gaining any points. Look, gear,
Slow and steady here.
Drop coming in on Proxanis. There's no carriers around. There's no defensive AA around. He is AA build though, so he does shut down a lot of planes. I think gearing AA might... No, Des Moines. I'm pretty sure the Des Moines defensive AA reached him. That's what saved him there. He still eats 2 torpedoes and still does take some damage.
He is
If
flooding.
flooding, he is flooding.
Yeah,
Oh no.
flooding.
That is actually a huge issue. He does have his heal to buy him some time, but this can become a massive problem.
I repaired it.
Okay, so not the end of the world, because his position is actually quite strong right now. It's not easy to hit him where he's positioned. And they have managed to force Wargaming Pay to Win far enough back that they can maybe start threatening B now.
They need to, but on the other hand, their 2 Hindenburgs on the east from Kings there are pretty much zoned out, no?
Indeed. But what has happened though is Wargaming Pay to Win pulled back so many forces to defend against that C push, which they did quite successfully delay. And they traded a lot of health for it. The problem is that they left the Hindenburg all alone on A, and Kings are actually putting a lot of pressure on Garanthor, and I think they might be able to push into A in return, which they kind of need to do, because they need to get a 2-to-1 capture advantage, because they are behind so many points at this point. Oh,
Bit of a carrier skirmish of fighters going on here, but with the aid of the gearing.
Proxanis is in huge trouble. He pushed too far around the island, and the Hindenburg HE spam, oh lord.
And the fact that he was off damage control party.
Yeah, and the gearing is spamming him as well. That people often underestimate gearing DPM, but those guns are absolutely no joke. He is going to go down. Gearing plus Hinden, HE spam, and he retreats so far enough.
There we go.
Oh boy. Now Kings are in huge trouble.
Yeah, they've lost any capacity of cross-firing themselves now. Now they can only rely on the heavy firepower from one battleship.
Indeed. On the flip side though, they are in a fairly decent position to perhaps threaten B and maybe even threaten A, but I feel like they have to make the move now, because if they wait, they will give time for Wargaming Pay to Win to reposition from all the way they sailed down south. If they give time for this Hindenburg and this Montana that they forced back to the J line, if they give time for them to come all the way back to the battle, which they are doing now, they're going to be in a huge crossfire, and then it'll be too late to actually contest any of the caps. So time is of the essence here, and I think Kings is wasting too much time being uncertain on what they want to do.
And furthermore, we're talking about an over 300 point lead.
Indeed. I mean, there's 7 minutes 40 left. If they do manage to get caps, preferably maybe even a cap, so Wargaming Pay to Win isn't gaining any points, they can still claw those points back. The problem is they need to make it happen, and the longer they're waiting, the closer Kamikaze is getting, and the closer the Hindenburg is getting. The Minotaur also will probably be pushing into better positions now. They forced them. They traded a lot of health to force them back. Now they gained a lot of map control, but now they need to translate that map control into capture points. If they don't, then Wargaming Pay to Win will claw back all that map control without having to trade anything for it.
Yeah. Looking pretty dire for Kings.
And very dire at this point. Preemptive torps being sent into B. Gearing trying to very slowly inch his way into B. I assume they want to bait out the radar. I mean, the one weakness of of Wargaming Pay to Win is they only have the Minotaur radar. So if they could lock down the position of the Minotaur, they could go cap around it. But once again, they only really have one DD. So if Wargaming Pay to Win knows where the DD is, they can also always position the Minotaur close to him.
Or if they know where the King's DD is, they can just send one of their DDs to go harass another cap.
Indeed.
So the Minotaur.
Moskva is in trouble. Moskva is in trouble. He's trading with double Hindenburg, which is never a favorable feature. And is the Minute? No. I think it's someone else.
This is the Minotaur shooting.
The Minotaur is actually lobbing shells. At this range, though.
Yeah, 17 kilometers.
Wow. Range mod Minotaur.
That means that the Minotaur is not in position to radar B.
That was actually very useful information. I don't know if the Minotaur showing himself was worth it there, because that just gives a lot of confidence to the gearing to go for this cap. They are blind firing extremely well. The problem is the gearing was so careful in pushing into the cap that they only made one single smoke blob. So that means there's a very small area that needs to be blind fired to reset the cap. And Wargaming are being very good at actually smoke firing that spot, and they are managing to reset the cap over and over again. And once again reset. Wow, that is frustrating.
We saw that a few times yesterday as well. Just decapping through splash, well, not even splash damage, but just splash from HE shells.
Yeah, that's a problem of making your smoke screen so small, as he did here. I understand he wanted to smoke up Des Moines, and he was very careful in going into the cap, but it's costing them now. It was a mistake, and it's costing them now, because good players like Wargaming Pay to Win, they will know to punish this. This was a mistake, and they are punishing it, and that's a very key point to take away from these high-level clan wars, is that any mistakes, they might seem so small, but right now this so-called small mistake is preventing Kings from getting B cap entirely. Yep. He got reset so many times. He lost almost all his health to blind fire, and his smoke is running out now, so he can no longer cap from smoke. It's a huge issue. It's a massive problem, and such a small mistake, such a huge punishment.
And meanwhile, the Montana and the Hindenburg that was pushed all the way down south are now almost up by sea again.
And now they're going to start creating crossfires. And Hellcaster is about to find that out. He's being crossfired right now. It's a problem. They waited too long to get anything done, and because of that smoke, they never managed to secure B. So the situation is becoming more and more dire.
Yeah, and right now it's 175 points, and Wargaming Pay to Win takes the first map.
Yeah, and it's more importantly, there's 3 minutes 40 seconds left.
Yep. So basically, in order for Kings to scratch a win out of this one, they need kills, but they don't have the health, and there's the crossfire right there.
There is the crossfire. He tried to get away from the fire coming in from north of B, and instead these guys who have finally pushed back up just delete him.
Yeah. But as I was saying, they need kills, but they don't have the health.
The other Hinden is about to go down as well.
Yeah, I see it.
This was very one-sided.
Yep.
This was, I think it was a mistake maybe that they gave up A so easily, but the reason why I think they gave up A so easily was that they expected to get C just as easily. But Wargaming Pay to Win is unlikely to give them anything easily. That's what you gotta understand. When you face these teams, you're not really given anything. You have to take it. And every time you go to take something, it's a risk. And that one Minotaur in that nasty position just delayed C for so long that they were down 300 points before they could get anything done. And even though this looks like a very slow and campy game, this was Wargaming Pay to Win control from start to finish. And they're losing ships now because they're trying to do something in desperation, but it's too late. This was just very nice play from Wargaming Pay to Win. They completely choked them out. Completely choked them out. They have the 2 caps now, and they do manage to trade an enemy Hindenburg. But, I mean, the sheer amount of resources in Wargaming Pay to Win's favor is tremendous. To be fair, they can still throw it. They are quite healthy. I will say Kings are still quite healthy. And this Montana is actually... If they kill the Montana, they will be able to get a lot of points back, which they need. And I think they recognize it. The King's Montana is pushing hard.
It's still 500 points.
Yeah, and I
They
mean,
would
it's
need-
still 40 points, but they are about to contest A. They got 1 minute 40 to make something magical happen. The
Yep.
possibility is there, but at this point it would need more Wargaming Pay to Win misplay than King's amazing plays. Actually,
Oh, yeah,
kind of
for
needs
sure.
both at this point. There is a carrier strike coming in on the Montana. There is a carrier strike coming in on the Montana, and I don't think he can evade it. He's no doubt full AA build though, so he will be shredding a bunch of these planes, but I don't think he can survive this. Hindenburg has been forced back so far that his AA can't reach. One of the weaknesses of the Hindenburg is that even with AA build you can only get 6.5 km range, unlike a Des Moines, so he won't be able to defend against the strike, and they do manage to take him down. And they are now oh, but in return Montana is gearing towards. Ow. Ow,
return.
ow. In return. They are contesting A though.
Yeah, 46 seconds left on the clock though.
Yeah.
And they don't even have enough salvos unless we're talking about like the weirdest detonation.
No,
Ever, but-
these are not clans that forget about detonation flags.
Yeah.
You can guarantee everyone from the battleship to the cruiser is running detonation flags.
Oh, yeah.
It's not gonna happen. And the Hindenburg actually gets undetected, so they will be unable to secure that kill. Kings actually started to get some good momentum towards later in the game, but the problem is the game has already been over for a long time. Because all Wargame Pay to Win needs to do is just hide. Run away and hide, because the time is so heavily in their favor.
Question is, will the Montana die before the game's end?
No.
No.
Oh,
Oh,
no.
close.
Kings rallied, but it was too late. It was far too
Yeah.
late. I mean, rallying when you're down 500 points, the amount of rallying you need to do is so insanely high that, yeah, it's not going to be easy.
And it came from that first little A cap. That
Indeed.
people like, oh, they only have the one cap. It's not gonna matter too much. But it
Exactly.
changes everything because it changes you from a level playing field to one side having to be the aggressor and one side being the defender. And that is huge when it comes to teams that are this good and players that are this good because you
Yeah.
know they shoot well and they position well and they angle well. Like you don't get anything for free. So it's huge being the defender.
Indeed, and they will always make the perfect crossfires as well. They will
Yep.
always make crossfires that are as punishing as possible, because that's the best way to punish enemies, and they've learned it the hard way. So Kings made some very small mistakes, but against teams like this you can't make very small mistakes. You can't make any mistakes, because mistakes get punished. That B cap was such a perfect example. That small gearing smoke. You wouldn't even blink an eye on seeing a small smoke in a random battle, but in a competitive game, every cruiser was blind firing at. They were hitting him. They blasted half his HP. They completely prevented the cap. It's you can't allow such mistakes. And well, they got punished for the mistakes very heavily.
Oh yeah.
So very convincing first game from Wargaming Pay to Win. I mean, Kings rallied, but once again, it was too late for the rally to actually be effective. Right, let's switch to Ruyo.
We on Atlantic or Islands of Ice?
The next map is Islands of Ice.
Cool. Maybe my second monitor breaking makes you the secretary this time around. It would feel very nice, actually. Very nice.
Crazy talk. Also, so far my curse has been holding 100%. Every team I'm on loses.
I'm gonna have to start like selling myself. You know, like
Yeah.
I'll spectate your side for
Exactly. Or maybe I'll start blackmailing teams. Send me this much to my PayPal, or I'll cast from your side. Flamu won. I will be casting from Omni's side against Skunk. Be very afraid, Omni. Be very afraid. You don't know what's coming for you.
Oh, that would be the ultimate Flamu curse.
In other news, as kind of expected, OM has also taken the first map against ALN, aka Alliance. This was, well, I'm hoping Alliance can rally, but OM top team, and yeah, they were, let's say they were the favorites in that matchup. But the first map does go in favor of OM. We'll see if Alliance can rally against them, though. They do have an uphill climb, I would say, because OM is not an easy team to fight.
No, definitely not. And they've proven themselves.
Yes, I mean,
Many times.
They have won King of the Sea, so...
Yep.
Any team that is capable of winning a King of the Sea is absolutely a top team.
For sure, for sure.
Because this is the point where the clans really start becoming tough. At the quarters and in the semis, it's only top teams left, and it's not easy to take those on.
We keep repeating it every time, but for people that have no idea or haven't seen, or they just play random battles in warships, people that play at this level, they don't miss. They don't miss angle. If obviously it happens every once in a while, but for the most part, every single move is calculated. If a ship turns away, it's because you have a plan with it. If you reposition, they have a plan with it. So, few mistakes.
That's the thing. People don't sail around aimlessly in these clan wars. Yep. Everyone kind of has their position. Wait, it's actually possible. I'm actually thinking now, the long range aura on the Hinden, because it has two long range auras. One is 6.5, but I think the other one, what's the other one? 7.2.
Good question.
Yeah, I don't want to exit the training room to check.
Nope. Same.
No, it's okay. I can deal with not being certain.
Mm-hmm.
The thing with the Des Moines is that both its long range auras are 7.2, which is what makes it so monstrous. But the Hindenburg has it split into multiple different auras. But I can't remember what the long range one is.
7.2 range
is the long range one,
according to chat.
Okay. Flamu curse is still strong, so it would appear. Oh, it looks like someone else is joining us as well. I understand though if the teams probably want to take a breather. I mean, it doesn't seem that tiring to play, but the games can be quite tense because you have to focus fully the entire time, and as we said, small mistakes, heavy punishment, so you have to be so careful of not making those small mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Let's refresh.
We're currently in the best of 3, right? Still? It's best of 5 for the semis.
Is it best of 5 for the semis?
I think so. Looking at the schedule, we have
an
hour and a half.
Yeah, we have a lot
scheduled
of
for
times.
that.
I think semis must be.
Yeah.
Semis must be best of 5. It wouldn't make sense otherwise that they schedule so much extra time. Do we know? Oh, it's map picks for semis, isn't it? Or is it?
I don't know. I can ask.
I think it might be map picks, like they get to choose their maps and so forth.
Currently waiting for Kings to center themselves, which
Indeed.
they need, because if they lose this one, they're out. So they probably needed a little bit of a talk.
Indeed. We're seeing an Henri IV, a Henry IV, on the King's side. We do see it on this map every now and then. You either play it up north or you play it very far down south, and it's kind of a kiting, harassing type of playstyle. It's interesting though, because Henry isn't really that popular, but we do see some teams who really like it. We once again see Des Moines Moskva, so double radar. We're seeing the gearing, at least one gearing.
I mean, we saw the Henri come
Henri.
up big yesterday with the easy
Indeed.
salvo on that Des Moines.
Who was it? Serenity from which team was it? Serenity from I can't remember the team he played for.
Me neither.
It was Serenity X in the Henry 4 though. He made
Yeah.
he made big plays, but sadly it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Double Hindens and only one DD so far. And I assume the last pick is going to be a battleship, so they're going with the 1 DD approach again. And this is a pretty interesting map to go with the 1 DD approach because this is a huge map. Islands of Ice is absolutely massive, and the caps are also absolutely massive. So that 1 DD is going to really have his hands full. Oh, some last minute tricks. Oh, they are not certain what they want to be running. I just saw one of the Hindenburgs switch to a Za. Usually you don't really make last minute changes.
No, and they're not allowed to. I think they need to submit their ship picks.
It's possible that they forgot what they have submitted and they changed it based on that. Because I'm pretty sure they're going with exactly what they submitted. It's possible that they remembered differently and then they double checked and picked the right one.
All right, here we go. Kings versus Wargaming Pay to Win.
Indeed, game 2. First game was a very convincing play by Wargaming Pay to Win. A very controlled game from start to finish. Kings never really got any breathing room. Kings never really got any sort of map presence that Kings wanted. They had to trade so heavily for. They traded so much health just to push them back from C, and even then it took them ages to actually cap C. It was very good trades from Wargaming Pay to Win. They basically made them bleed for every single square of ocean.
Yep.
Wrong side.
Wrong sides.
Restart. Restart it is. Exit the port. Are Omni going to play against Skunk? Yes, that is the next game we will be casting. Skunk versus Omni. Someone told me in chat that the 55mm guns on the Hinden are 7.2 km. So they don't. Those are the guns that. Wait. Okay, never mind. I'm not gonna quote chat because they're changing their opinions all the time. I'm not gonna quote chat it. You know when.
Are you telling me you don't trust your Twitch chat?
Yeah, shockingly. It's what you know someone writes something and then they changed opinion. Like 1 second later, 10 people disagree with him. Okay, this Battle Momo guy needs to exit battle. These two Itki guy needs to exit battle. Those are the two other casters.
KOTS, will Flamu casted team ever win? Is the giveaway keyword right now in my chat.
Well,
apparently.
Harsh, man. Losing stream confirmed.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Battle Momo finally came out. Now we're just waiting for Dimland.
Yep. There we go.
What the hell? My thing automatically read it up with a Hindenburg instead of a Ruiz. Holy crap.
No more losing.
Yeah, no more losing. Just
taking things.
No one will notice if I take part.
No. Right, here we go.
Alright, it should be right side this time.
Yeah, buddy.
Let's see, Hakuryu, Montana, Des Moines. Interesting that they have both Henry, Hindenburg, Zhao. They got one of every cruiser except the Minotaur on King's side.
They have a Moscow?
Yeah, they actually went for the huge variety here. So in this case, Hindenburg is a pushing cruiser mostly. I mean, it can kite as well. Henry is definitely more of a kiter and flanker. Zhao is more of a kiter and flanker. It can be a scouting cruiser as well. Moskva is cap and point holder. Des Moines is very much cap and point holder.
Yep.
Significantly less flexible than the Moskva when it comes to pushing because of how squishy it is.
And Wargaming Pay to Win opting not for the Minotaur but the Des Moines on this map, and that makes sense.
Indeed. Well, once again, there's much less cover on this map.
Yep.
Huge open spaces, and while Des Moines isn't exactly optimal for huge open spaces, it still does better than the Minotaur does.
For sure, for sure.
Right. What do we have here? The Kings are sending the Des Moines up north. I would have expected maybe to see the Des Moines on G6 behind the island. Oh, sorry, up here behind the island. That's a very common position for the Des Moines. But they're actually opting to send him up north, which it means I assume they're gonna park him near A and use his radar and AA up there. We have, in fact, a huge amount of force being sent down south with very little being sent up north.
It's the other way around for Wargaming Pay to Win. They're sending Hindenburg, Montana gearing down towards C, and then gonna anchor down the middle with the Montana, and then they have double Hindenburg gearing heading up towards A.
Indeed, Kings is almost entirely abandoning A by the looks of it, and that's a risky play because it's very common to send a scouting ship. But then again, looking at Wargaming Pay to Win's setup, they don't actually have too much of a scouting ship unless they're sending a Hindenburg north. Are they sending a Hindenburg north?
Double Hindenburg gearing up north.
Wow, so they're putting a huge force into the north.
Yeah, they're only keeping Des Moines and Montana somewhat in the middle right now. Completely opting to not even contest B. And as the team with the 2 destroyers, that's a little bit surprising. But then again, if they can get the AC, both A and C controlled using their destroyers, then
Gearing is about to get spotted unless he smokes. He's smoking. There might still be stealth fire coming in though. There might be a blind fire coming into that smoke. He's once again only made 1 puff, and this can be a problem.
Yeah, there needs to be salvos going out now if they want to decap that though.
Yeah, they're not going to make it in time otherwise. I'm pretty sure the Torps got spotted by the carrier. Oh, incoming fire.
Is it gonna decap in time?
No,
Nope.
it missed entirely anyway.
Okay.
Well, not entirely, very close, but still it missed. Important thing to note though is... Okay, I wasn't wondering who the hell team killed, but it was the other caster who was quite slow. He's using independence?
Might not play carriers at all.
But he bombed himself with the bomber, and that's what killed him, so the bomber is still in the air. Okay, someone should probably inform him that he should use the... whatever. Anyway, it looks like CA is obviously going to fall into Wargaming Pay to Win's hands in that case. Kings is getting a Moskva into that position I mentioned though, the G6 position. It's a very strong position for a radar cruiser, and getting a Moskva there is going to help them lock down both BC, which appears to be their strategy this game. They're completely abandoning A, and they're going full force on BC.
Ooh, that's dangerous though. Have they noticed that there's 2 Hindenburgs going up to A?
No, there's no scouting of what's going up to A.
Because that position that you mentioned for the Moscow behind that island is strong as long as he does not take fire from the north.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But then again, if he does angle north, it won't be as much of an issue. And if the gearing can smoke, I don't know. That abandoning A works if they get a good pressure going on at C. This can still work out well for Kings, but they need to realize, first of all, the carrier needs to be scouting A. At this point, Kings have no idea what's actually up at A. They just know it got capped. And if the carrier was scouting A actively, they would know that they have a huge numerical advantage down south, in which case they should be aggressively pushing through C.
Yeah, information is such a huge component in these matches, and limiting yourself on, like, you have a tier 10 carrier, he can scout
that
just
weakness.
fine.
That weakness you mentioned about being flanked, it's kicking in right now. And they can actually bypass this if the team pushes and the Moskva pushes with them like this, it will still work out well. But if they try to hunker down while being crossfired, then this is going to be painful.
Yeah.
Because Hindenburg up north, he's just gonna park and he's gonna farm, and that's what they're both doing now. They're just parking and farming, and there's no reason for them not to park and farm. Because
Yeah.
no one threatens them, and oh no, yeah, Kings need to make. This is a mistake that can be avoided if they just play aggressive now. They need to quickly locate their balls and just charge in. They realize there's a lot of forces up north, and they need to take advantage of this by putting all the forces they have already so close by into play.
Question is if the Moscow is even gonna get to live to see that happen.
Moscow is pushing now, but now the rest of the team needs to be aggressively pushing as well.
Yeah, but he's gonna push out fully broadsided to the Montana of Masaru. He's not worried, or careful, rather.
I think he's dead. I don't think there's anything he can do. He's just dead. He's even worse crossfired now because the team isn't really pushing. The team is still dragging their feet. They're abandoning him, it looks like, and that's not a good idea. He's dead. That's a very early kill.
Yeah.
This is not good. This is a
No, but
mistake
it could
that
also speak like they've made a mistake and they realize that, but not trying to overcommit in order to fix a mistake, so they're gonna pay even more for it, might actually be a bit level-headed. I mean,
true, but I mean, we can assume if the two Hindenburgs were up north, we can assume there's a
Yeah.
DD with them because the DD hasn't
Yeah.
been seen anywhere else. So we can assume a full third of the enemy forces are up at A,
Yep.
whereas the entire King's force is down here. So this would have been the time to make an executive decision, whoever is the
Yeah.
in-game leader, and say, okay, let's push. They are missing a third of their forces. We can outgun them heavily. Let's push. Let's
Yeah.
take control of C. Instead, they just kind of sit here, and these two Hindenburgs that wouldn't really have been that influential. Well, they just secured a kill, and now they're going to be pushing even deeper to flank, and Kings is just kind of sitting around and letting it happen. This is gonna quickly develop into a bad problem. They're sending the Montana up to stop this push. The problem is they have a gearing with them, which means both the Hindenburgs are going to be smoked, which means Montana will struggle to actually do anything against this.
yeah. I'm getting so far as to spotting the Hakurio of Kings now and actually shooting at it. I'm assuming they can't shoot at the. Yeah, they can't shoot at the Montana. That's where
No.
they're shooting the.
He's behind the island.
So very early advantage goes to Wargaming Pay-to-Win. However, they are probably going to be double cap against them, which will mitigate the point loss, but that does not mitigate the loss of the guns and the radar.
To be
and the
fair,
health.
it's not that big of a deal in pure firepower because Wargaming Pay to Win goes into these games with a bit of a disadvantage in firepower because they opt for the double DD.
Yep.
So the cruiser that they lost was kinda an extra in that sense,
Yeah.
but ultimately it's still of course a huge loss because a large part of their control on B and C relied on having that Moskva radar in play. They are securing C though. The Zhao coming into play, the Zhao's excellent concealment allowing him to cap it. But there's carrier pressure coming in on the Montana. There is carrier pressure coming in on the Montana. Are there any fighters around? Not really. Is there any defensive AA within range? Des Moines is too far away. Uh-oh. This is trouble. This is trouble. He's going to have to turn into the torpedo bombers, and in turning into the torpedo bombers, he's going to have to give a lot of broadside to the Hindenburgs. Oh, and the carrier is lining up the perfect drop. He loses one squad to the AA.
It's gonna be one torpedo hit right on the belt.
Yeah, the actual torpedo damage wasn't really the problem there.
No.
It was the fact that Proxanis was happily sailing away from these Hindenburgs, but then he was forced to turn, and both the Hindenburgs are really punishing him for it.
Closest Hindenburg is 18 kilometers away though, but they can still apply good HE damage.
Yeah, that's the thing. Hindenburg with range mod, and if they run spotter planes as well, it's just so much constant pressure.
Yeah. Well, they know that the Moscow is dead. Wargaming Pay to Win knows that the Moscow is dead. They know that the Des Moines is out of position. I wouldn't dislike the gearing to the south. Just going in and contesting B for a little bit. Just try to pull some attention away. His use is smoke, so why not go B? And it looks like he's on his way to do just that.
These Kings Montanas, though, are eating so much damage. Both of them are half health. That is a pretty huge amount of health to be lost in comparison.
Ooh, big hit on Hellcaster in the south for Kings. That
And
was
they're
a third of his health.
They're just farming him. He needs to get out. He needs to stop shooting. There's no planes around, so he can't get undetected. He just needs to stop shooting and get out. They won't get the kill, but once again, they keep getting this really good chunking pressure. They focus fire one guy, and he hits so much more damage than he expected to, and then he's kind of out of the battle.
Potential drop on the gearing here. Southwest of B. Fighters are there.
You can't drop with and gearing defensive AA as well. This drop could never succeed.
So that was 2 torpedo bombers given for nothing?
Pretty much. It was, I mean, the attempt was good, and he did bait out the defensive AA, I assume. But yeah, it's still a pretty heavy trade.
It's not the effect that they're looking for right now. Kings need to, like, every resource they have right now needs to be, like, if a battleship fires a salvo, they need to do as much as possible with that salvo. If the carrier sends out torpedo bombers, they need something to connect. Like they need every little bit that they can squeeze out right now.
And Des Moines is not in a fun position. He's trying to nose tank 2 Hindenburgs, and the Hindenburg HE will just do so much raw damage to him. That was a 6k HE volley, and those are gonna keep coming in from both of them constantly. This Des Moines is actually in huge trouble.
Henri comes in for support. I haven't really seen much from him.
No, he's not really been that relevant. I'm surprised they didn't, considering they wanted to take B and C control, I'm surprised they didn't send this fast, agile ship up to A to scout and harass and delay and whatever.
Yeah.
I think like that would have been such a perfect role for a Henri.
Ooh, AP to the broadside of the Henri.
Nah,
just short.
Spaced armor.
That heat ammo.
Yeah, it's the trolliest armor in the game. It makes the Henri very hard to citadel, that spaced armor. The Des Moines has to turn away, he has to flee, because the gearing is no longer there to smoke him, and in the open, fighting 2 Hindenburgs, the Des Moines really can't fight against other cruisers in the open at long ranges, because he struggles to land his shells, whereas every time they land shells on him, he will eat a lot of damage. Yeah. Especially against Hindenburg, so he has to completely disengage from this battle. In the
Down south.
Yeah, in the meanwhile, they are pushing the alert, the Des Moines, into the position I mentioned that is amazing. He's going to push right up to this island, and he's going to become such a massive pain for Kings. If they don't kill him before he reaches this island, they're never going to get rid of him. Because unlike the Moskva position, Wargaming Pay to Win actually has both south and north
Drop
cover.
on the south. It's going to be 3, 2?
Ooh.
3 hits.
He's dead. They're gonna finish him. There's no way. Yeah. There's no way the Montana is gonna let him get away.
One of the Montanas.
Both
right
Montanas.
There,
crossfire.
Right there is that's the crossfire.
And it
didn't really matter where the south turned. He was gonna give enough of a broadside to one of the Montanas.
Important to note that while those 2 Montanas are crossfiring, the King's Montanas are both on the same position, so it's very easy to angle against them. It's very easy to deal with them as long as they're grouped up. The points aren't even. I mean, Kings have been holding the cap advantage. The problem is all these kills, all this damage, all this jockeying for position has led to full map control for Wargaming Pay to Win, and we just saw some juicy battleship AP take all the gearing health. And at this point, the game is pretty much over. It's so hard to recover, because Wargaming Pay to Win has north control, they're getting full mid control, and even the south side is pushing. Even though they're outnumbered in the south, they've still managed to push them back.
Yeah, very impressive. No.
I mean, we did go into this game, and I did mention that I do expect Wargaming Pay to Win to be the heavy favorites.
Oh yeah.
But I'm a bit surprised at kind of how easily Kings did give up some of these advantages. That not even scouting A, especially when you see it being capped, I think that's very questionable. If the enemy starts capping A, you know they have forces there, so why not instantly send one squad, one bomber, one anything up there to find out what they have. So then when you know what they have, then you can plan accordingly. But if you go in blind without knowing what kind of forces they've dedicated to the capture point, I mean, how are you supposed to do any strategies, make any tactics if you don't even know where the enemy forces are? I thought that was a really big tactical misplay.
And here is some crossfiring. From the middle, the Montana of Masaru
And
had a free broadside on Proxanis still.
yeah, Proxanis. Well, I mean, they have to push. There's
Yeah,
no good. The problem is when you're this far behind, there's no good options left. You're forced into bad positions and bad pushes, and they just got to roll with it.
Yeah.
I think that Masaru's next volley will kill Proxanis. There it is. I don't think he misses shots like this, not at this level. Nope, he does not.
There it is.
And Greggy Ice needs to quickly get rid of this Kamikaze Sushi Montana, because if he doesn't, well, it's going to be a crossfire.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Kamikaze knows this as well, so he's doing his utmost just to live. He's literally just sitting nose in, reversing, trying to survive as long as possible, because as long as he stays alive, he's this massive pain that they have to deal with, and there comes the carrier support, and that's GG.
And that wraps it up.
Very, very convincing. Very convincing result from Wargaming Pay to Win. I didn't feel that Kings really had a single chance in any of these games.
No, and I mean, if we want to break it apart, it's like they failed to scout a third of the enemy team going to A.
Yeah.
And that third dislodged the entire plan they had down by C with the Moscow in position, and that entire plan kind of just crumbled once they realized that, oh, well, this position is not going to be safe. How do we do that? And then they turn into this like passive standoff fight.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't do a passive standoff fight when you're losing map control and you're down a ship. Like a passive, if you're trading evenly when you're down ships, the enemy has more firepower. That's also a problem. But the lack of scouting, and even when they saw that it was being capped and they knew there was at least something up there, they still went with the Moskva in that position. That just seems like there was no pre-planning. I feel like they had this set plan of what they wanted to do, but then Wargaming Pay to Win didn't do what they also wanted them to do. They had this plan and they were going to execute it no matter what the enemy team did, but Wargaming Pay to Win did their own thing, and it just directly clashed with this King's plan, and Kings didn't adapt at all.
Yeah, it's almost like Wargaming Pay to Win is like a bar fight, right? They sucker punched him right away, and then after that, it's like Kings was on the defensive. So they got that early little, I don't know, almost like they got into their head, right? Like, oh, you want to push here? Well, you're gonna pay for it, and you're gonna pay for it a lot more than we're giving you. So.
Still though, I felt like the Kings were in such a good position to make a really offensive push happen. One is Bomber going north, scouting the two Hindenburgs and Gearings. Okay, so there's only one DD down there and they're missing two of their huge firepower. We have our entire force already in position. They could have just straight up steamrolled, like shoved all 8 ships into them and just forced Wargaming Pay to Win on the backflip. Forced them to just flee and retreat and abandon the caps, abandon all map position. They had a chance there where I felt like they could really have flipped the game in their favor really heavily, because I felt like Wargaming Pay to Win maybe dedicated too many resources to A. But Kings never did anything with that advantage. They never scouted, they never reacted. They kind of just sat there and they let Wargaming Pay to Win execute their envelopment tactic, where they slowly split up all over the map, they slowly take map control, and then they just slowly choke them to death. And Kings just sat there and let it happen.
Yeah, and it starts where it ends, pretty much, and that's the unscouted push to A from Wargaming Pay to Win. Had they noticed that, they could have not had the Moscow in such a deceptively weak position. Like, they think that we'll be safe here. It's got cover for most things.
Yeah, see, that position is kind of nasty, because when you fight against it, if you don't have north control, the position seems so strong and so hard to deal with, and you think, wow, that position is amazing, we need to get our own radar cruiser into that position when we play on that side. And they don't take into account what makes it strong, and that is flanks being covered. And that's the weakness of both the Des Moines and the Moskva. They are only really strong when they have a set fire zone and their flanks are covered. but as soon as the flanks starts leaking, that's when the position becomes complete garbage.
Yeah, and it happens so fast, so early in the game. Like, that position shouldn't have been as vulnerable as early as it was. Like you said, somewhere like 2/3 into the game, that Henri would have been really good just staying up there and contesting a little bit, or just being that little thorn in the side. For
Yeah,
the
harassment, scouting,
Yeah.
slow them down, like
Mhm.
anything. But I don't know. I don't know what their game plan was, but well, clearly it didn't work out. Meanwhile, let's see what has been going on in the bracket. ALN equalizes the game against OM. Oh my. ALN won the second map. Well, I think our Omni versus Skunk game is about to start in just a second.
Yep.
A shame. I wouldn't mind going and looking at the ALN versus OM, because that game just got really interesting. I was expecting OM to take the win, but clearly ALN has been improving during their break significantly. Right.
The room is up.
Okay, who starts it?
K_N.
Okay. Well, I mean, this will also be an interesting game, considering we followed Skunk yesterday a lot, like their entire route through the playoffs, and now they're up against what is considered the boss fight.
Yeah. Need the like Final Fantasy boss music,
Indeed.
battle music right now.
Yeah, this is absolutely the boss fight.